some of the Muslims that were in there, and I actually made friends with them. We would sit every day at the table, and they would bring their literature, and I would bring a Bible or something that I had, some book that I was studying, and we would just sit there and debate. They would try to convert me. I was trying to convert them. It was a
Yeah.
whole back and forth. I learned a lot.
Welcome to the Men's Alliance podcast. Men's Alliance is a growing movement of tribes across the nation that meet weekly for rugged outdoor workouts and a real-world devotion around a fire. If you want to be a part of what we're doing, join us at men'salliancetribe.com, where you can find a tribe near you or come to one of our Start the Fire weekends. So check us out at men'salliancetribe.com. Now stay tuned for this great podcast. Welcome to the Men's Alliance podcast. I'm Dave Mills Goose.
I'm Dusty Parker Shadow.
I'm Josh Robinson Free.
So we've got
What's up?
we got an out-of-state guest with us today. Josh Robinson is in Lucia tribe in North Carolina, right? Are you Lucia 1 or 2?
I guess 1 is where I started because that's where it started.
Okay.
But
Awesome.
I go to multiple.
Roger that.
Sweet.
So I met Free when we came down to North Carolina last year now for patch class 06. So Free's in class 06, and that's where I got a chance to meet you and really hear your story. Very powerful, and really glad. It's been several months since then, and I know we've tried and failed a couple times on our scheduling. So I'm really excited to have you on the podcast today, just to share your story with our tribesmen in all different states. So, man, I'm just going to kind of hand things off to you, Free, and just tell us about. Let's kind of start with just how you came to Christ and share your journey with us.
Well, let's see. Oh man, where to start?
Yeah, where were
I
you
guess
born? Where were you born? How about that?
that's a good question. I actually am not entirely sure.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it was North Carolina,
Yeah.
but when it comes to my family, it's kind of hard to tell. I don't think I've ever actually seen a copy of my own birth certificate.
Wow.
So a little bit about my story would be I'm the middle of 5 kids, the youngest of the first 3 that came from my biological mom. She left when I was 4. She was bad on drugs and alcohol, from what I understand. So I went with my dad, grew up with my dad, and he got remarried pretty much immediately to my stepmom, who I don't know where I'd be without her. She's been there through it all. We were in and out of church a little bit growing up until we moved to this area when I was about 8. And I remember we were coming back from a family trip, and my stepmom had it. She was angry at my dad, and long story short, she like punched him in the side of the head. We had to pull over at the church, and she got out and started talking to the pastor at the church, and she said, you know, we need to do something because this isn't working. And he said, well, maybe you should come to church on Sunday, you know, see how you like it. And we've been at that church ever since.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that was just like the closest church that the car just pulled into the parking lot of?
Yeah, we were almost home, and we had driven past this church before, and it's Lucia is what it used to be. Now it's Real Life, which is
Oh,
where
man.
Lucia Tribe is at.
Yeah,
And
real life church.
mhm.
So you weren't on your way to church.
No.
That's just where you ended up. That's
Yep.
good.
And yeah, we've been there ever since. I'm one of those kids. I got baptized at like 9 years old. Didn't know what I was doing. Didn't know the gravity of the situation. Honestly, I did it because they give everyone who gets baptized that's in that age group chocolate milkshake.
Wow.
Sign me up.
Yeah.
That's what I said. So I didn't know what was going on. Like I could answer the questions because I've always been pretty good about learning. I stayed in the church growing up. Didn't really follow anything the way that I was supposed to, doing whatever I wanted, but still going to church on Sundays, acting like, you know, I'm a Christian.
Yeah.
Then when I was 18, I got arrested. Wrong place, wrong time. You know, I shouldn't have been there. It's my own fault, really. And I get arrested and I'm out on bond, and I'm out on bond for 5 years. With that kind of weight hanging over your head, you don't know what's going to happen, where you're going to go. I didn't hear from my lawyer for 3.5 years. Then one day, I've got a fiance, I've got a job, I just got moved in by myself, got all this stuff going for me. And then one day, my lawyer just out of the blue says, "Hey, you got to come in for roll call." It's been 3.5 years since I heard from him. I was like, well, sounds about right. They said, well, you got till tomorrow to accept this plea for 2.5 years. And if you don't accept it, then you have one other option, which is take it to trial. And they're looking at 5 to 7. I was like, oh, okay. Well, do you think we can win at trial? The lawyer looked at me and lied to me and told me, nah, we can't win at trial. So as I'm rendering my plea, if I hadn't signed that paper, the judge would have dismissed my case
Mm. How do you know that?
because he said as much. Yeah.
Like right then on that day he said that?
Yeah. Right after he had rendered my plea, he said, well, had this gone to trial, it would have just been dismissed.
Oh my gosh.
Why would he say something like that?
So when this lawyer called you up and am I hearing right? Like you had like basically one day to make this decision. Like you got to come in tomorrow with this decision on whether or not you want to do 2.5 or gamble on 5 to 7.
Yeah. One night.
Holy smokes.
Yeah. So I did my 2.5. I went in at 120 pounds and I went into a pretty rough prison. It's actually shut down now. It's called Polk. In the system, it's called Gladiator School
Mm.
because it's a bunch of like 18 to 25-year-olds. Most of them, 80 to 90% of them in gangs. Good number of them have life sentences or, 10 to 25, something like that. And I'm just in there, unaffiliated, going through it. And when they say it's called gladiator school for a reason, it's called that for a reason. You go in not knowing how to fight, you're going to come out knowing.
Wow.
It's rough. I was there for a few months. Actually, they waited a couple days to take my picture. And my picture, I had a split open eye right here from where I'd gotten socked. uh, Good times.
Wow.
Yeah, my family saw that and was like, "What's going on? Why do you have a black eye?"
Oh my gosh, that would be so gut wrenching.
How long did you stay in the jail before they sent you up the road, as they say?
I was only in jail for processing, so only for like 10 days before they shipped me off to state. And then
Oh
I
wow.
processed at Polk
Okay.
I was there for 2.5 months, 3 months, something like that.
Okay.
hmm
Why were you only there? Then where'd you spend the rest of your time?
Well, they jumped me around a lot towards the end, but
Yeah.
then I went to Albemarle,
Mhm.
which that's where I learned um, a lot about how the system works, how people work. Like you get a whole other side of people when you're in there.
Right. You learn how to
Uh,
read people. You learn how to read people.
Definitely.
It's
The
it's a
slightest,
size up game. Yeah.
yeah, the slightest change in attitude you learn to detect.
Yep.
Um, I saw and heard some pretty gnarly stuff
Yeah.
when I was in there. Um, I was hanging out with people with life sentences,
Right.
making friends, just chilling. I started playing chess, learned that I like chess. Uh, then I started speaking with some of the Muslims that were in there, and I actually made friends with them. We would sit every day at the table, and they would bring their literature, and I would bring a Bible or something that I had, some book that I was studying, and we would just sit there and debate. They would try to convert me. I was trying to convert them. It was a
Yeah.
whole back and forth. I learned a lot about
How
Islam.
how long did that relationship with those guys? How long did this take place for?
About a year.
Wow.
Yeah,
So were you guys talking about this like almost daily for that year?
almost daily. Yeah.
Yeah, so you've probably, this was one of the things that we
Patch
were
class
talking
training.
about down at the fire at Patch Class. I was so blown away with this part of your story. I was like, man, you've had more hours worth of conversations with Muslims about Islam than anybody probably in Men's Alliance. And I think I mean I'm just excited about like where this is going in your life. But come back to that conversation you're having with these guys. How good a job did they do of representing being ambassadors for their faith?
They did actually a very good job. They taught me a lot about how their religion works. Um, you know, they brought some discrepancies that they had thought they found in the Bible. Really, they were just differences in numbers. I think between like what is it, First Kings and First Samuel, when they're talking about the number of soldiers or something like that. But it was just a matter of translation error
Mm.
because they were bringing a King James version. And there's not as many manuscripts that were translated for the King James Version as what we have now. So,
Yeah, that's right. Oh,
but
that's an interesting one. I haven't heard of that numbers one from Kings being a tactic of Muslims. That's an interesting one.
that and they brought up what is it? I'm trying to remember exactly the one with the camel, um, where it's foretelling the coming of Muhammad, and I think it's Isaiah. I don't remember
Mm-hmm.
exactly, but it was talking about the coming of Muhammad after Jesus, and that's a whole other thing that they wanted to discuss. But
Yeah, they believe that it's referring to Muhammad.
mm-mm,
Yeah, that's how they interpret it. Okay.
yeah,
It doesn't say the name Muhammad,
No.
but they
no,
just
no,
assume that's
that's
who they're
just
talking about.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So you said that they almost converted you.
Yes. I had at one point 7 or 8 Muslims in my pod that I
Oh.
was and I was the only Christian that would talk to them. And and it was during COVID, so we were locked down for 23, sometimes 24 hours in just our pod, just talking, learning. And I came close to being converted because of the discrepancies that they pointed out, and just I liked certain things about Islam,
Mm-hmm.
the constant prayer, stuff like that, the fact that there are certain laws that I like from Islam,
Mm-hmm.
like, actually the alms for the poor is
Yep.
very important, stuff like that.
I will say this: Islam is a very masculine religion,
Yeah.
and
Definitely.
it appeals to men. And I was just a couple months ago, I was reading a book called "Why Men Hate Going to Church," and it's written by a guy named David Morrow. And the statistics in there, it was really interesting that um, men in Christianity, men in churches in America is steadily declining. And most people are well aware of this. And we've talked a lot about this before, but men in Islam is steadily growing. But it's women in Islam are declining,
Mm.
right? And women in Christianity are growing. So uh, when you look at like a mosque, it's always full of men. And when you look at a church, it's always full of women and children.
Mm.
And so I guess my point is I can totally understand that appeal and that attraction and that draw. You know, Islam is based on 5 pillars, right? And it's 5 things you have to do, which is so appealing to men. It's a checklist,
Yeah.
right? There's no guesswork.
It's
Like,
accomplishment.
here's a checklist,
Yeah.
do these 5 things and you're good. And I think that that's very appealing to men. So I get it. Christianity is like, hey, there's nothing you can do. You can't be good enough. You can't earn it. This guy named Jesus already paid it for you. All you have to do is put your trust in him. And honestly, that's kind of confusing to a lot of men because they're like, but what do I have to do? And nothing. No, you're not understanding. You don't do anything. Put your trust in this man who already did it. And so I think that there's probably a huge appeal to men who are searching, open-minded, looking in prison to probably be drawn into Islam, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. And another thing with Islam is they do a lot of brotherhood stuff.
Oh yeah.
So like you come together as a group, as a family, and you look out for each other, you protect each other. When one of you stumbles, the other one comes and lifts them up. And that's especially true in prison. And that's very appealing to a lot of people in there because they're in there pretty much by themselves.
Yeah. And the
Oh,
food is better as a Muslim in a jail.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
oh,
I've seen a lot of guys come in and be like, wait, you get chicken breast and vegetables and I got to eat nasty
Chicken
meatloaf.
patty.
Yeah. It's like, I'm a Muslim.
Yep.
So.
oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And you get to eat at different times.
Is that something you saw, Free?
Oh, yeah.
So you're sitting there
Especially
with these guys at lunch. They're eating better food than you.
some of them. Yeah. Some of them just got on the vegan diet, which was just, there's always beans and
Yeah.
no, I couldn't do that. But no, I would see them like on their Ramadan.
Right.
They would
Ramadan's a
get,
big thing.
yeah, they would get special treatments. Um, they'd get a big tray of like roast beef and some
Mhm.
other stuff. And it's just,
Because you get to
wow.
eat late at night.
Yep. You don't eat throughout the entire day. And then as soon as nightfall happens, that's when you start eating.
Right.
Right. Man, so when you guys are sitting there having these conversations and they're trying to convert you, how did you feel? Where were you at as far as being equipped to respond? How did you feel? Did you feel like you could represent Christianity well, that you could respond well to their challenges, or did you feel any kind of over your head?
I was definitely in over my head. These guys were studying their religion every day. That's another thing that's required in Islam is that, well, required, but you have to study every day.
Yeah.
And um, they knew the ins and outs of their religion a lot better than I knew the ins and outs of mine. There were a few times that I was, stumped. I didn't know what to say. So I told them like, let me write a letter and get some answers and I'll come back to you. Like, especially on those quote unquote discrepancies that they would talk about.
Mm-hmm. So
That
who
was,
are you writing to?
I have a guy that I know that does YouTube channels, and
Mm-hmm.
he's very intelligent. His name is Karai. Um, he spent like half his life in Japan. Very intelligent guy. But I would write to him, and he would write back and help me figure out some of the stuff.
That's awesome.
That's
It's
cool.
great to have some resource like that um, for you to phone a friend, right?
Yeah.
And in your case, man, you were doing this snail mail, right?
Oh yeah.
So you're waiting to get this letter back from him. So there's what, like days or weeks
Mm-hmm.
before you can go back to these guys and say, okay, here's the Christian response. Here's our position on this.
Yep. Sometimes days, weeks.
Yeah, one of the things that I definitely have noticed in like the past 8-9 years is this huge realization that the other religions are kicking our butts
Mm-hmm.
at studying, right? A
Big time.
Mormon or a Muslim, they will take your Bible from you and they will flip to a passage and hand it back to you and be like, here, right, here's the problem. Explain this, right? Like a lot of Muslims know our Bible better than many, probably most Christians do. And this is where, we gotta up our game as Christians, man. You better be studying, you better be reading, you better be, you know, able to be that ambassador.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think that is that Christians don't have the same discipline as a lot of other religions when it comes to studying? I think it's because just the Christian message is it's the easiest gift you can get, so it's like it takes the pressure off of I don't have to do anything else.
I'm sure that's a part of it. I'm sure that's a part of it.
Yeah.
What would you think, Free? Why do you think Christians
That's
are?
honestly, yeah, that's honestly exactly why I was gonna say that. It's because they get that gift and then they're like, well, I'm done. I don't need to do anything else. I got my gift.
Yeah.
Mm. I think it's that. I also think there's a lot of just our culture in America. I don't think, and this I don't know for sure. I'd be curious to know, but I have I've read enough about underground churches in China to know that they're studying,
Right.
and they're memorizing entire books of the Bible, because they'll only have a few pages of the Bible.
Yeah.
And then they'll pass those along, and then they'll get some different pages. So they're studying and they're memorizing and they're doing their work in other countries. So I think a bit of it is our culture that we have in America of Christianity. It's very much centered on fun and entertainment and attracting people.
Yeah.
Right. And so if you think about the difference between like the Christian American church's approach to winning converts versus the Muslim approach to winning converts. We're all about come to our church, check it out. It's so fun. We've got this bounce house and the best, music, and we're putting on a big Super Bowl party, and I don't know, whatever. We're just going to make it fun, especially for youth group. And we're trying to attract people based on it being attractive and fun. Other religions, namely Islam, they're not doing that at all. They're like, it's not fun. It's very serious. It's very important. You have to do a lot. Here's what you have to do. And honestly, I think that message,
it's attracting more people.
that message attracts men for sure. It might not attract, women and children, but it attracts men because men want to be challenged.
Yeah.
We want to be challenged. We want to be told this is hard. You probably can't even do it, but here's the path for it if you're up for it.
Yeah.
That's what we want to be told. We don't want to be told Jesus wants a personal relationship with you. He wants you to invite him into your heart. We're like, what?
Well,
What is all that weird stuff
like
you just said?
If my Marine recruiter told me, yeah, anybody can be a Marine. Come on.
Exactly.
It's easy. Anybody could do it. Yeah, you can be a Marine, sure. But if he said, you don't have what it takes, no, you're not going to be able to do it. I'm like, yes, I do. Or at least I want to find out if I have.
You're going to be like,
I want to find out.
I don't.
Yeah, I know. I want to find out. I want to find out if I have what it takes. Sign me up.
So check this out.
Yeah.
Which approach did Jesus use?
Yeah.
Did Jesus go around asking people to invite him into their heart because he wanted to have a relationship with them, or did he challenge them to follow him? Right? Did he say, this is going to be fun and we're going to have a blast and we've got the best music and we're going to have the best food and we're having a big party? Or did he say, take up your cross and follow me? In fact, if you look at it, when men came to Jesus and said, hey, I want to follow you, he often turned them away with a pretty tough challenge. He was more of like the don't waste my time. This is probably too hard for you kind of challenge that we actually see Islam presenting. He told one guy, oh, you want to follow me? Go home and sell everything you have and give it to the poor.
Right. Jeez.
And then another guy said, Jesus, I want to follow you, but first let me go bury my father. And Jesus said, let the dead bury their own dead. He said, take up your cross and follow me. He said, and I think this is one of the most startling things in the Bible. He says, anyone who puts their hand to the plow and then turns and looks back isn't fit for the kingdom.
Yeah.
Like, oh boy. That's a challenge.
It's funny how
churches aren't doing that.
But just imagine, I think Jesus is the only person who could say that kind of stuff in a way that isn't being offensive or being a jerk.
Well, a lot of people thought he was offensive,
really,
and a jerk, and that's why they killed him.
Yeah. I just feel like, he said it in a way that was like, yeah, you're right. Like,
yeah,
I love you.
Oh, I'm sure it would have been amazing.
It was
right?
very calm and
his delivery.
Yeah, and loving that he said those way. I'm sure his delivery wasn't like, no, let the dead bury their own dead.
I don't know.
Idiot. You think?
Well, not the idiot part, obviously, but
yeah.
I think it is it's a very sobering response from.
Yeah.
So I was reading about this pastor in Alaska, and a guy in his church, a Christian in his church, brought his unsaved friend, and the guy came up to the pastor after the church service and was like,
Oh, yeah.
"Hey, I want to become a Christian. What do I have to do?" And the pastor said, "Don't waste my time," and turned around and walked away. And then the guy like followed him. The guy like chased the pastor and was like, no, seriously, come on, you're a pastor. I want to be a Christian. What do I have to do? And the guy was like, you have to really take this seriously. Like, I don't want you to think that this is just going to be fun and games and easy. And the guy was like, no, I'm 100% committed. He's like, okay, then here's what the Christian life looks like. And I think that that's actually the challenge that Jesus used and that appeals to men both.
Yeah.
Right? Like that appeals to men. It's challenge. It's not sugar coated. And maybe that's the part that Muslims are getting right. They're like, hey, this is hard. This is a challenge to do this. And maybe that's part of why they're winning so many men while Christianity in America is declining among men. Christianity is growing among men in Africa and Asia. It's declining among men in North America and Europe. And you look at everywhere Islam is growing, it's all a challenge. It sounds like a fun contest to see if you can keep these 5 pillars, right? And then to your other point, Free, they got the brotherhood thing. They got that wired tight, don't they?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely.
You don't
They,
see a group of Christians in prison banding together as well as they do.
No, you really don't, and that's the sad part, because we're supposed to do that too.
Right.
I mean, it's something we're called to do. We're called to support each other and be there for each other as well.
Absolutely.
I will say, after I got moved away from Albemarle and I got moved up to Craggy up in the mountains, I did see a better Christian fellowship and Christian groups. They really came together, at least certain ones.
That's great.
I started doing because my issue, and I feel like why I was almost converted to Islam, was because I didn't have anyone else pouring into me.
Yeah.
I was just emptying my own cup and not getting filled with anything from the word, except for what I could do myself. And
Yeah.
fellowship is very important.
Absolutely. Like it's imperative.
Mm-hmm.
Hey guys, I want to tell you about 3 easy ways that you can help spread the Men's Alliance fire. 1, you can leave us a review for this podcast. That's right. Giving us a 5-star rating on our podcast helps elevate us in the rankings, which helps more men find us. So that's one way you can support us. Also, you can go to the merch store and buy a Men's Alliance t-shirt, hat, coffee mug, whatever. Wearing it helps support us by advertising Men's Alliance. And the third way you can support us is by becoming a monthly supporter, a monthly financial donor. 10, 20 bucks a month. We need everybody rowing in the same direction. That will help us grow this ministry and continue to put on more experiences like Start the Fire and Carry the Fire. It'll help us partner with more churches across the country as we grow and help us continue to spread this podcast. So leave us a rating, check out our merch store, and consider supporting us monthly at men'salliancetribe.com. Thank you guys for helping us spread this fire. So you get moved, you're at Craggy. How much time did you spend there?
I was there about 8 months at the medium custody. And then I got moved finally to minimum custody. I spent, because there was just one right up on the hill. That's where the minimum custody was. I spent a few months there. Then I got, well, no, sorry. There's a step in between there. I went to go to court because they were gonna re-sentence me or something after I'd already served like a year and a half. And I went to court and came back, and this was during COVID, and I was not vaccinated. So I got sent to a maximum custody holding facility and stuck in the hole, which I don't know if you guys know what the hole is, but
Oh yeah.
I only know from movies. So tell me.
Yeah. Why did
it's
you get
not
put in there?
it's not that bad because I wasn't vaccinated. That's the
Oh,
only reason.
oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I got stuck in the hole. What it was it's just a maximum custody pod, but you get out for 30 minutes a day and you're stuck
And
in a cell.
when
Six
you're
by
in
six
there,
room.
Yeah.
you're in there by yourself.
Yep. 6 by 6 room. You got your
Yeah.
toilet, your sink, and your bed.
23 hours in. Well,
23 and 1.
23 and a half, I guess, for you. But yeah, 23 and
Yeah.
1.
Oh my gosh.
That's
What did
tough.
you
It was
do?
horrible.
What did you do in there to keep your sanity? Are you what are you doing? Are you talking to yourself, singing? What do you do?
I read, I slept a lot, which was not good for me. I tried to stay active, but because I had already started working out, and been working out for about 6 to 8 months at that point. But I fell off, like being stuck in and
Yeah.
my room, I couldn't get any natural sunlight.
Mm-hmm.
I was stuck in there and I was just constantly going more and more depressed. I could yell through the vent and the room next to me could hear me at least. So I would have conversations with the room next to me until, um, like I convinced him to start working out with me.
Hmm.
And so we would work out at the same time together. It was only like a little 30-minute body because you don't have much room to
You
move
let it
around
work
in there.
out.
Yeah. There's something about
Yeah.
that, isn't there? That's how much we need community, even if it's through 6 feet of brick wall.
Yeah.
An
Holy
event,
cow.
you know?
Oh
It's,
yeah.
it's solitary confinement. I mean, if anything sounds more depressing than that.
I can't imagine.
Solitary.
And how long were you in there?
I got stuck in there for about 3 months.
Holy crap.
Holy smokes, man.
Did you find yourself like changing as far as like your personality or anything, like just doing weird like things that are crazy? Just
Not
from being
really,
in there. Yeah.
I definitely saw some people doing it. Like,
Yeah. Like you didn't get an imaginary friend or anything?
oh no, thank goodness.
Yeah.
I had enough books that I could just reread.
Right.
What'd you enjoy reading?
I usually like reading like fantasy novels myself. They're a good escape,
I was
especially in
gonna
that
say,
situation.
Totally, man. I got into reading fiction on deployments. I would plow through like every John Grisham novel because when you're in it, man, you feel like you've escaped.
Yep. Yep. I definitely, I liked that. And then I was actually starting to read, I had a workout book and I was reading all of the different stuff about how the muscles work and how they move and everything. And
Hmm.
honestly, had I not gone to prison, I never would have learned that working out was like one of my serious passions.
Really?
Yeah.
What were
Because
some of your? Oh, sorry. Go
I,
ahead.
oh, yeah, I wasn't really working out like that. Like I worked out in high school doing calisthenics and sports, but like after high school, nothing. I was 120 pounds when I went in. I was 145, 150 when I left.
Oh,
And there's a difference
you packed
between
on some muscle.
Yeah, there's a difference between
Yeah.
gym strong and jail strong.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a big difference.
All right.
I
Explain the difference, Free. What's the
well,
difference between Jim Strong and Jail Strong?
Jim Strong is, those guys that go in there for about 30 minutes and an hour, something like that. Jail Strong is, I watched a guy do 4 full CrossFit workouts back to back to back. It took him like 2.5 hours, and then he did a Murph in 35 minutes
Yeah.
and he carried the dumbbell instead of wearing a weight vest.
Wow.
Like that's Jail Strong. That's
What
someone
were,
who worked out for 20 years straight, though.
Yeah.
what were some of your go-to exercises when you were in that solitary confinement in that hole?
Push-ups, sit-ups, squats.
That's all you need.
That's about all I could do. I didn't really have room for anything else. Really, I almost hit my head a couple times doing sit-ups.
Yeah.
Wow. So tell us a little bit about getting out and coming back into the life that you had left, or a new life.
Well, I got out February of 2022. I had an ankle monitor on because I still had to serve my 12 months post-release because thank North Carolina for that. And I was attending real life church because that's where I'd always gone, and my mom was going there. Uh, and one day I'm sitting in the pews, and my mom had talked to Quack, Ryan Baker, and she was like, "Well, he's starting up a men's group." I was like, "Yeah, I don't know." And what convinced me was he sought me out, talked to me, and said, "Hey, I'm starting up this men's group. You should join." So I attended. Um, I liked it. It was a workout group, and well, I thought that's what it was.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So we worked out, and then we went and sat around the fire and did a devotion, and I felt welcomed.
Man, that's
Which,
incredible. And this is the same church that you guys pulled into when you were what, like about 9? Because you said you were
yeah,
9 when you got
like
baptized. So,
7 or 8, yeah, when we pulled
okay,
in.
so at age 7 or 8,
Wow.
you pull into this church parking lot, and your mom talks to that pastor. And one of the things I'm wondering through your story is if your mom hadn't talked to that pastor that day and got you into that church, that planted an anchor in your heart.
Yeah.
That anchor still held through all those couple hundred hours of sitting there talking with a whole group of Muslims around you trying to convert you.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to wonder if you might have just gone into Islam had you entered agnostic.
Yeah.
It's entirely possible. Like I'm very grateful that I had that foundation to stand on.
Yeah, man, holy smokes. So how long was it between you get out in February 22 and you're at your first Men's Alliance tribe?
I think we started up in April.
Yeah.
Like late April, I think.
So you were with it right when Quack launched.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I went to that first one, and then as soon as we were able to sign up to lead workout, I led the first one, and
Nice.
they learned what it's like to be jail strong.
I bet that was an insane workout.
Oh yeah, I introduced them to a little thing called tabata.
Oh, tabata.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's a That's a CrossFit form of torture right there.
We did 6 different 4-minute tabatas. So
That's awesome.
just back to back. I loved it. They loved it. And now they still talk about that first workout.
I bet.
Tabata sounds like a pudding or something to me. Yeah, I'd have a Tabata.
Some kind of spice.
give us the quick overview. What's the breakdown of the seconds of work and rest in this Tabata workout?
20 seconds of work, 10 seconds of rest, 8 rounds.
So you do something, let's say push-ups. You do 20 seconds of push-ups, and then you rest for 10 seconds.
Yep. And then you go immediately right back into doing 20 seconds of push-ups.
20 on, 10 off, and you do that 8 rounds.
Yep. 4 minutes.
That's what we did. That's what we did at your all tribes, isn't it?
Yeah, we've done a lot of Tabatas.
Yeah.
So you do that 8 times, and then you go to a different exercise, like squats. 20 seconds on. Okay. So I just want to make sure that we're all clear on what this was like. So there, you just got a great workout idea. Everybody listening, for your next tribe workout.
That's right.
We need to. Do you remember what your? You said 6 different exercises, so 6 times 8. So, do you remember what your 6 are?
Yeah, it was push-ups, squats, sit-ups. Might have done pike push-ups. Yeah. And then we did jump lunges and bicycles.
Oh man, there you go.
You have to put that on the website.
Push-ups,
put that in the show notes.
Sit-ups, squats, pike push-ups, jump lunges, and bicycles.
I don't even know what a pike push-up is. I don't think I want to know.
Google it.
It's rough.
It loads it up on your shoulders, right? Is that one where your butt's kind of up in the air? It's a shoulder heavy.
Okay.
And you touch the top of your head to the ground, and then the wider you put your elbows out, the more it works your shoulders. The more you bring them in, the more it works your triceps.
Jeez.
We need to name that right there. We just described it. This is going to be the free
workout.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds like it's going to be fun and easy. It sounds like it's free. Free workout.
It's free. Yeah.
I love it, man. So, talk just a minute here about your patch class experience, because that's where I met you, and tell us just a little bit about what you get from going through a patch class at Carry the Fire.
Well, I'm going to start by saying, when it came to before I went into prison, I was a very quiet, quiet, laid back individual. When I got out, I had more confidence, but I didn't know how to present that confidence, what to do, how to act. But the patch class helped refine that. It helped me understand when to speak, when to talk about certain things and what to talk about, how to be confident and not pushy, not showboaty, not arrogant.
Wow, that's really cool to hear.
It taught me proper leadership.
Man. Wow. This story is just, I can't get over the trial you went through. It reminds me of Joseph. It reminds me of Joseph. Just the part where you're just hit with this instant, you have 24 hours to make this decision. You make a decision. Then you're just told, oh, if you would have made the other decision, you'd be free. That's almost more than a soul can handle. And then the trials you went through in prison, I can't even comprehend what you went through, man. And seeing the guy that came out the other end, all the experiences. This part I do know. All the experiences that God had you go through are training for something.
Right.
I don't know what the something is, but I mean, brother, you've been through gladiator school and you've been through a couple 100 hours of Islam, right?
Yep.
So I don't know what it's going to be for you, but I'm excited to find out. I'm excited to see what God has you do. By the way, how old are you now?
I am 28 now.
28. So
Yeah.
still super young,
I
right?
feel old.
Well, you've got a lot of mileage.
Yeah.
But you've also, got many decades ahead of you. Guys in Men's Alliance that are in their 20s are young.
Yeah.
That's rare. Most everybody is
the minority.
is 40s probably.
Oh yeah, especially talking to all these guys, they're out there married and have kids. It makes me feel like I'm behind the times, but then I realize they're also like
Yeah.
10, 20 years older than me.
Yeah.
So do you feel like your time in jail do you feel like it was like gap years in your life? Sometimes when you feel like you're on deployment, your time stops everywhere else and you're missing out instead of looking at it as it's still my life and it's a time and space to grow. Was it, I guess, I don't know if that's the right word, but did it end up being good for you, you think? Or if you could go back, would you never do it?
I will say I did look at it that way at first,
Right.
where, I was 23 when I went in and I was 26 when I came out because I went in right before my birthday.
Right.
And I got out and I was like, man, I missed out on so much.
Yeah.
I didn't get to see my first niece get born, I wasn't there. I don't have a family. I'm 26 years old. What am I going to do with my life? But I look back at that feeling that I had and I'm like, that's wrong.
Right.
Those experiences that I had in there happened for a reason. I I learned a lot about myself, learned a lot about my religion, and I mean, that's where I learned about my passion. If I hadn't gone in, I would have never learned that I love working out the way that I do.
Yeah. I love
So
how
I definitely look at it as a good learning and growing experience.
good.
Man, that's awesome. What an incredible story, Free. Thank you
Yeah.
for sharing that with us. I mean, after hearing that, there's no way anybody can complain about their day.
Yeah.
Right? Better be no tribesman complaining, because it puts things in perspective for us of what other people are going through, and you look at all the authors of the New Testament books and what they went through, and it's going to be hard. We should expect those trials, right? And you've had more than your share, and you've arrived at this point that you're at now, not by accident. And
That's right.
and I enjoyed meeting you, getting to know you down at your patch class, and I'm absolutely certain, like I said, God's going to use everything that you've been through to help others, to sharpen others in some way, shape, or form. So I can't wait to see what that's gonna look like for you. But also realizing, like, if they make a movie about your life, everything that you just described is like all very early in the movie.
Right.
Right? You're not even halfway through, right? You're
Right.
not even at intermission. So
That's a good point.
you can do anything. You can do whatever you want. You've got, everything's ahead of you, and you've been through hell, but God's brought you through it, and here you are now. So, man, that ought to offer all of us a lot of perspective on our lives and on our situations. And again, man, thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you for having me. It meant a lot.
Yeah.
Well, brother, I can't wait to see you again soon. I don't know when that's going to be. I know you guys have another All Tribes getting ready to come up pretty soon.
Yep. Think
And
it's
also,
February.
yeah. And, you know, we would love to have you as a cadre, as part of an instructor for future patch classes as well, especially as we talk and train guys. You know, for those unfamiliar with what we're talking about with patch class, and it's what we call carry the fire. This is a class that trains men how to answer tough questions about what we believe and why. So it will get you up to the point where you can comfortably sit at a table with somebody from any worldview, whether they're atheist, Muslim, Hindu, doesn't matter. You will be able to sit there and comfortably hold your own in any conversation and be able to clearly articulate the gospel to them. So, if you guys are interested in this, check out our website, men'salliancetribe.com. Register for Carry the Fire. If you don't have your Men's Alliance Challenge coin yet, you got to get that first. So you have to have a challenge coin to get to Carry the Fire. So if you're not near a tribe, you go to Start the Fire first, and then you can go to Carry the Fire. And this is all a part of what Free has been talking about how he was almost brought into Islam by two things, right? There was two things about that group of men he was with. One, they were a brotherhood. They were a community. And so that's a huge piece of Men's Alliance. That's what we talk about when we say we're a tribe. It's a band of brothers. So, and then the second thing that they had that almost converted him was they had knowledge to articulate what they believed and why. So we want you Christian men listening to this, husbands and fathers out there, we want you guys to be in a tribe, to have that band of brothers, and we also want you to be that ambassador. So we want to train you. That's what we do. That's what Men's Alliance exists for. We're training men. We're making disciples out of men so that they can truly be barbarian ambassadors to the world. So thanks again, Free. It was awesome having you on here.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing your story, and look forward to seeing you around a fire, brother. Go ahead, please. You get the last words.
I was just gonna say it was a great experience, and I really appreciate it. It was awesome.
Yeah, man. I'll just say thank you so much for everything you're doing in North Carolina for your tribes that you're involved in, man. Just pouring in to your tribe and the men in those tribes. I think someone said once, I forget who she was, one of the president's wives, but she says, some men go through their whole life without knowing why they were born or what their purpose is. And Marines don't have that problem. I think the same thing can be true for guys in Men's Alliance.
Yeah.
Some guys can go through their whole life without knowing why they were born, what their purpose is on life. But guys in Men's Alliance know, because they know that they're taking the experiences that they've had, the good, the bad, the ugly, and sharing them with other men and pouring into their lives. And that's exactly what you're doing. So
it's good.
All that stuff that you've experienced, I think a big reason why God put you through that is for this podcast, for the men that you're pouring into in your tribes. So just thank you that you're answering the call, man.
All right, buddy. We'll see you soon. And for those of you guys listening, I look forward to seeing you guys around the fire. Thanks for listening to the Men's Alliance podcast. We hope to see you in one of our tribes or at one of our unforgettable weekend experiences. So join us at men'salliancetribe.com.